Okay, Katy, let's start Wednesday this week. You put this great video out of you at the dining table, laptop out in front of you, when the decision comes through. Do you want to walk us through what that moment on Wednesday morning was like?
Look, I've got goosebumps just going back to that moment. I was sitting there in front of my laptop just refreshing because I knew an email was going to come through from my lawyer, and it came through and there was just two words: we won. And I literally just jumped up. I was like a jumping bean, just full of absolute joy. My mum was there, my stepdad, who have been through this whole journey with me, and we all just jumped up and down, burst into tears. It was absolute pure elation.
It's kind of a weird feeling as well though, right? Because you're not actually in the room where the decision's being made. You're waiting for an email to come through from your lawyer. Is that typical? Like, is that how things work for those of us who aren't really dealing with the High Court that often?
Look, I don't know. I thought that, because that's what also you see in movies, is that you'd be there in the court and they'll read the verdict. But it felt odd just being there all by myself as well, and having to deal with this huge news kind of alone. But the positive was at least I was in the comfort of my own home. For anybody that's ever been to court, that's not my world. You know, I'm a fashion designer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm completely out of my comfort zone in any courtroom.
And so your two children, who are 6 and 9 years old, they're only very little still. Their entire lives, this court case, this legal battle has played out in the background. What was it like when you picked them up from school and told them the news?
Look, that was actually one of the highlights of the entire day, just picking them up. And I said, because I hadn't told them that the verdict was coming out, purely because I didn't want them to be concerned. I wanted them to keep their routine. And so I picked them both up and I said, today the verdict came out and we won. And we just jumped up and down. They were so absolutely excited. My son has already said that he's going to do a talk about me at school.
You're going to be his news, his show and tell on
His
Monday.
show and tell, exactly, my mom. And you know what, through all of this, they've been kind of my guiding star, and I really wanted to be a role model for them of courage, of persistence, and just to keep going even when it is hard.
I want to sort of walk back down memory lane a little bit, because you've been dealing with this legal battle for 17 years. Do you remember when you were first made aware of Katy Perry, the singer, and also, I guess, her, for lack of a better word, cramping your style?
Yeah, look, for me, my label started in 2007, and like many fashion designers, chose my name. I had never heard of her. At that time, she wasn't around. And I think sometimes it's hard for people to imagine a time when no one knew of the pop singer. I first heard of her when she had that song, I Kissed a Girl and I Like It. And you know what I did? I actually bought the song because I thought, wow, that's amazing. There's another Katy Perry out there. I want to show my support. Very different to what then happened to me, which was in 2009. I had just had my first launch for my showroom. I remember sitting around empty champagne glasses and picking up this really thick envelope and opening it up, and it said, cease and desist, stop sale of your clothes, stop your website, and stop any advertising material. And as you can imagine, I mean, I was so scared. I burst into tears, and to think that my dream that I've wanted to have a fashion label since I was 11 was going to get taken away from me. And I hadn't done anything wrong. I'd done exactly what the government says, ABN, register a business name, and get a trademark. And that's exactly what I'd done.
So, I mean, what's the legal standing then? How do they attack that? Because you're Katy Perry, the woman, the fashion designer here in Australia. She's Katy Perry, product of the pop machine, the pop industry machine. She's a Goliath, right? And we've referred to this as like the David v. Goliath, you know, of all battles to end battles. You're one woman with a showroom. You're just sort of starting out in the industry, and she is Katy Perry, the pop star. How does it feel to have this entire mass entity sort of coming down on you? It must have been terrifying.
It was really scary, and the letter was very threatening, and anybody that's ever had to deal with lawyers, it's scary unless you're working in that field. You know, it is a really scary time. But one thing that I believe in is justice and I believe in standing up for what's right. And I just kept on going back like, I haven't done anything wrong. I haven't done anything wrong. I'm not just going to buckle. And, like this happens to a lot of small business in Australia. Overseas conglomerates come in, they put a lot of pressure, they threaten with legal action. And so you think, oh, well, I'm just one person. I'll just give up. And that's what today stands for, because you can be one person and fight.
Why was it so important for you to fight this?
Because this is what I believe in. I really think it's important to stand up for our values. I think it's important to stand up for small business. Our trademark in Australia, trademark law is here to protect all, and that's what I've always believed in. Whether or not you have a small business or a big business, you should have that protection. And that's what this case has been about. It's been more than just a name. It's actually been standing up for justice.
It's more than just a name, but it's also a legacy, right? Like you pass that on to your children.
Oh, yeah, definitely. They will have that trademark.
What does it take to take on a big celebrity then? Because like we've mentioned, you're one lady, she's a big machine. How do you even start to attack that?
Look, I think it's sometimes hard to go back because today, obviously, I won and I'm so excited, but there has been a lot that's happened behind closed doors, and it hasn't always been rainbows and unicorns and just, kind of, oh, just keep on fighting. It's been really hard, and there's been a lot of tears and moments when I just thought, this is too much. Like, I'm just one person. How do I keep going? And what I kept coming back to is, what would my 80-year-old self say? So what would 80-year-old Katy say to me? And each time it was, keep fighting for what you believe in. You believe in justice. You believe in small business. Your values matter. But also it became even bigger than that of, I wanted to be a role model for my kids, because life is hard. And there are many times that you'll go through things and think, I can't do this for another day. I don't have the resilience. And it's a matter of just getting yourself up and keep going.
Have you at any stage had contact with Katy Perry, the woman? Because from a common sense standpoint, it feels like if you could just sit down with her and say, hey, this is my context, this is where I'm coming from in this situation, the reasonable person would maybe think, oh, we could work out an agreement. Have you ever had the opportunity to do that?
No, she won't have anything to do with me, and she actually said some really nasty things about me and personally attacked me. I won't repeat them because they were so horrible, but people can always go online and find out what they were. So we've had no contact.
Now that everything is said and done, though, if you had the opportunity, what would you say to Katy Perry, the pop star?
I have nothing to say to her. I mean, I think today says it all. I won. I've nothing.
I want to talk about the people in your life, Katy, who through the last 17 years have been by your side, who've supported you. Obviously, your family plays a huge role in that, but what about the rest of the industry? Because Australia is a small place. I imagine the fashion industry and the designer community is even smaller than that. Have you had people in your professional life reach out, support you through this?
Look, I have, not even just in my professional life, but even in the broader community. I do the Rocks markets, and the amount of times every weekend I have people coming up and just saying, I saw you, I've heard your story. I've had people just say, like, I don't have too much money, but here's $20 towards your legal case, because they wanted to be part of this and make an impact. Just before I came on air, I was actually talking to my production manager. My pattern maker sent me a beautiful message yesterday, but it's reached broader. It's actually reached the whole of the community, because this is a story that's more about resilience and standing up for what you believe in.
And so what happens from here now? I imagine you have just been inundated with phone calls and messages and well wishes, and I hope orders as well.
Yes, it's been amazing. I've had so much support. Lots of people have gone to my website, which is incredible, because it's also part of a story now. Like, buy one of my T-shirts and you're wearing your values. You're wearing part of history. And this has also been about supporting Made in Australia. I've always been, right from 2007, manufacturing here in Australia. So to have that support on so many different levels really means a difference. And every order means a difference to my small business.
And is it over now? Is there a chance of an appeal, or is this it? We just move on with life?
That we went to the High Court and won. This is it. I get to keep my trademark, and I'm so fortunate because now I can start focusing on the future. I've been in this state of limbo. Where am I going with my business? can't scale. Do I put more money in it? Because at any possibility, it could have been cancelled. So I can now go back to doing the thing that I really love, go back to designing, manufacturing in Australia. I'm actually back to my production house tomorrow in Marrickville. So it's kind of back to it. And I'll be at the Rocks Markets on Sunday if anyone wants to come by and say hi.
I love that it's just BAU for you now.
It is very, very much so. And I think it is when you've got a small business. You know, it is just me. I don't have a huge team behind me.
Oh, look, Sydney markets today, but Paris Fashion Week next year, who knows?
Who knows? I feel like the world's my oyster, and it also shows like anything is possible. I just keep reminding myself of like, what now? Because look at what I've taken on and won. Anything, the future is really bright and anything is possible.